So I saw that you did a video on Jalen Hurts, and I was asked yesterday what I thought about the Jalen Hurts drama, which I responded, I had no idea that there was. My phone was on airplane mode for days. Like I didn't touch the internet. And then I was like, all right, I should probably look this up. Please correct me is the controversy that Levante David was like, we didn't really have to prepare for Jalen Hurts? Is that what the controversy was?
No, that's just some aftermath bullshit.
Okay. And then I saw Cam Newton said something about Jalen Hurts.
Oh, yeah.
Like not being the guy. So what is the origin of this Jalen Hurts whatever that you did a whole video on?
Jalen Hurts has been secretly eating people.
I figured when I typed in Jalen Hurts in Google, that would have popped up if that was the story that he was consuming people.
Well, it started, somebody leaked Jalen Hurts' Spotify playlist. And it was Paul McCartney and then Cannibal Corpses.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, that's kind of weird. Turns out. And Cannibal the Musical as well.
Okay. All right.
Like, okay. That's
watched that Jeffrey Dahmer thing on Netflix a while back.
That's the only thing he's watched.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he eats people. So now you're in the loop.
So what happened with Jalen Hurts?
All right. Yeah, Jalen Hurts. So an ESPN article came out. Jeremy Fowler and oh God, I forget the other guy, the co-writer of it. They wrote an article. A long article about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, and they basically, I don't want to officially call it a hit piece, but the whole article is just criticizing Jalen Hurts. It insinuated that he is hard to coach, that he changed the plays too often, that the offense was stagnant because of Jalen Hurts and basically only Jalen Hurts. Then it said other things in there, like Jalen Hurts responded to Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen as coaches because they challenged him. So anyway, it's one ESPN article. And it came out, and I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then literally every ESPN show that day was their biggest story was just talking about this Jalen Hurts article. And then Fox Sports, they're talking about this Jalen Hurts article. And then Mike Florio's like, ooh, this is the Eagles secretly telling Jalen Hurts if he doesn't play better, they're never going to pay him again. So it just blew up into this big story about the Eagles' offensive struggles and everybody debating whether or not it was Jalen Hurts. And it all just stems from one article with a bunch of anonymous sources from within the Eagles organization. And it just seemed unfair to Jalen Hurts. It just seemed weird. And it just seemed like a great story for the offseason when there wasn't a lot to talk about. And I was more interested, like after I got through it, I was more interested in the fact that nobody else had any other of their own stories to talk about. And I thought it became a reflection of we have all these giant sports media networks, but we have very few like actual like they have a fair amount of journalists and reporters, but
they're dwindling.
They're dwindling, and the lack of actual stories that are being, researched and published are so few that everybody just had to talk about this thing. Plus, it's Philly. Like Philly's a lightning rod for controversy like that because you got a passionate fan base, and they're going to come out and defend their guy. And then it just like Cam Newton, he said some dumb shit about it too. Like everybody felt like was just saying dumb shit about the whole thing and not taking the time to be like, hey, wait a second.
And this is like
for an offensive coordinator every year is also a big problem. Maybe the Eagles offensive line being injured last year is a problem. Maybe Saquon
run game,
800 fewer rushing yards last year is an issue. Like, I don't know. It just became very silly. And now it's my best performing video. So,
there you go.
I mean, it was a quick one. I wasn't planning on doing, but yeah, that's what that thing was. Also cannibalism.
Also the cannibalism. But that's secondary to this article. That was just a footnote at the very bottom. Well, I just perused that article. Yeah, I think what is kind of insane is this is what we're in April now. So what, 14 months after they won a Super Bowl, and Jalen Hurts put together like a really damn good like playoff performance. And then the whole offense was not good last year. Like you mentioned the O-line, right? And they had like a bunch of some injuries on there, but the O-line wasn't as good. Saquon wasn't as effective. And the run game, which really helped that offense in their Super Bowl run, wasn't there. Like it was multiple things. We were talking about AJ Brown. We were, and Jalen Hurts definitely needs to play better than he did last season as well. But also Kevin Patullo, I mean, good God, that was like week 3. Eagles fans were ready to run him out of town.
Yeah.
So is this just it's the off season and we're looking for anything at this point?
And I think like Kevin Patullo's play calling is the criticism there is fair, and I think it's hard to not say that this is that Kevin Patullo's. It sounds like a fired play caller trying to blame the quarterback for the bad play calling is the way it kind of comes off. And I'm not saying he's the source, but it feels like he's the source, right? It feels like he's 100% the source.
His body language was so poor.
Yeah, I think if there's truth there, I think it's that Jalen Hurts didn't really trust Kevin Patullo as a play caller. And I think Jalen Hurts at this point in his career has kind of earned the right to not trust a first-year play caller coming off a Super Bowl win. And also, Jalen Hurts is a very good QB who has some flaws in his game, and they're gonna catch up to him when his athleticism sort of dwindles. And I think the Russ Wilson comp is fair, but like right now, he can still play well. We're like Sean Mannion, if he is a good offensive coordinator, we will see that reflect in the offense this year. And then we will see that man get a head coaching job well before the Eagles want him to be there. And I think they try to paint this thing where like these play callers leave because of Jalen Hurts. And I don't think that's fair either.
Yeah, Kevin Patullo, I don't think left because of Jalen. I think that was because all of Philadelphia was like, get out. Yeah.
And it's also reflective of like a quarterback's situation's got to be good around him for him to succeed. And there are just a handful of quarterbacks who buck that trend, but Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback, but he needs the things around him to be working well.
Sure.
And I think like if you want to criticize Hurts for something last season, it's like his effectiveness situationally probably wasn't as good as it should have been. And I think their offense was way too predictable and they were able to eliminate Saquon. But it's the funny part about this too is somebody yesterday fucking tagged me in a Dov Kleiman tweet who is
always a great start.
Is like, is this change your perspective on what you made your video about? Well, it took all my restraint to not give him a paragraph of your quote. You're tagging me in a Dov tweet saying I should check myself.
Oh, it's also Jalen Hurts is one of those quarterbacks that is kind of a magnet for this criticism, right? And even before his Super Bowl run, even during his Super Bowl run, like they're like, oh, he's not the guy. And like he went out and he played really darn well. And I feel like while that offense was humming along, it was like, okay, this should silence a lot of folks now because like Hurts put together like a really good playoff performance. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. It has not, I have seen though. But this also, you mentioned Philadelphia, and it is a hotbed for like, you are going to get a response from that fan base. Trust me. I mean, this is the fan base that bullied their team into running the football more successfully. So kudos to them. But I just don't know. Yeah, I feel like just because they went from, hey, we won a Super Bowl to we couldn't even win a playoff game. And it was, against the 49ers who were pretty beat up. Their offense is very good. It just is. It's a recipe for, you're going to get a whole lot of criticism. But if they come out and their offense is looking better this year, like you said with Mannion, then no one's going to care. But this also happened with Caleb Williams last year, right? Like there was that whole big article about Caleb Williams and like his coach, and that was how much of a mess that was. And look, Caleb Williams went out this year and played pretty damn good football, and the Bears won a playoff game. I don't remember who they won against, but I don't remember who they played in the wild
Oh,
card.
you don't know who they beat in the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't remember. No.
I think it was the Vikings.